Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is the United States moving its embassy to Jerusalem. It's an exception that defies diplomatic history. Israel is the only country in the world that does not have the ability to have its chosen capital recognized by her closest allies. Jerusalem is indeed the international capital of the Jewish people. It is the historical capital, it is the geographic capital, and it is the spiritual capital. Jerusalem has never been the capital of any other nation at any other time throughout history. Jerusalem has been the uniquely Jewish capital city since the time of King David. Jerusalem was never the capital of any Arab or Muslim society, ever. In today's modern Israel, Jerusalem is the governmental seat of the Jewish state. It is there where the Knesset, Israel's parliament, sits, where the Supreme Court sits, where the prime ministerial and presidential residences are located, and where most every government ministry is headquartered. The exception is the Defense Ministry, which sits in Tel Aviv for a series of reasons having to do with defense. The Palestinian lobby against moving the U.S. Embassy is obvious. They use diplomatic and religious resources to get their message out. Imams in mosques around the world have been given directives to preach about the U.S. Embassy in their weekly Friday sermons. Muslim clergy has been asked to give over sermons invoking hate and violence throughout the Arab world. The objective is to use these Palestinian messages about not moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem to blackmail and exert influence on Western leaders and Arab and Muslim leaders to put pressure on the White House. The buzzwords embedded in the messages circulating in diplomatic circles are words like repercussions and consequences. They are code words meaning violence, riots, and terror. They also mean that friendly Arab Muslim leaders seen as allied with the United States might become targets of the violence and may even be unseated in the mayhem. These threats are taken very seriously. A direct threat has been issued stating that if the United States Embassy is moved to Jerusalem, it will ignite an explosion of violence throughout the world of Muslims and Arabs. There will be attacks against Western targets, especially U.S. and Israeli targets. Another threat is that the streets where protests against the move will be staged in cities around the Arab world will erupt. But the fear is that the Islamic regimes will resort to aggressive military and police means to put down the massive rioting. That will put these regimes in the uncomfortable position of appearing as if they're supporting the United States and Israel in moving the embassy. Palestinian leadership is taking a let the chips fall as it may attitude. They have also announced that if the embassy is moved, they will unilaterally declare an independent Palestinian state with El-Quds, the Arabic and Muslim name for Jerusalem, as its capital. This statement, aka a threat, will have serious repercussions. It will almost certainly open the floodgates of terror attacks. Documents have already been published articulating the verbatim words used by the Palestinian President Abbas to terror groups, activating them to attack Israeli sites and kill as many Israelis as possible in order to exact a heavy price if the embassy is moved. This would, of course, force Israel's hand. Israel will shut down all Palestinian entry into Israel. They will prevent all goods from entering Palestine. The new Palestinian state will be isolated, separated almost totally from Israel. Palestine cannot exist without Israel. They need Israel for almost everything a society relies on in order to survive and care for its citizens. The Palestinians have never created an organized infrastructure. They are totally reliant on Israel. Calling for an independent state as a result of moving the United States Embassy to Jerusalem is an overreaction and self-destructive. That miscalculation would effectively make the Palestinian state another Gaza. It would leave the new state with no economy, no infrastructure, and one which the Palestinians, those Palestinians who secured places in the coveted Israeli job market, would be de facto losing their livelihoods. Israel's United Nations envoy, Danny Danon, explained the situation this way. He said, "The Palestinians continue to threaten with more unilateral steps against Israel, which we will continue to struggle against by any means. We welcome any measures taken against unilateral steps. such as these. He continued, the international community must make clear once and for all to the Palestinians that the only way to advance the solution is by stopping the terror and incitement and by direct negotiations between the sides. Palestinian leaders need to step back. Too much is at stake. Far more harm than benefit will come to the Palestinian people. And the reality of the functioning Palestinian state will be pushed further and further into the future. Palestinians can lobby away in the Western world and in the Arab world, but only two nations are required to create the Palestinian state, Israel and the United States. And moving the U.S. Embassy from its present location in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem is not part of the decision about Palestinian statehood, not at all. Moving the embassy is one of the many items on the agenda of the new U.S. president. His 100 days are ticking away quickly, and people are looking carefully. Conventional wisdom asserts that Americans are apathetic when it comes to politics. People either don't care or they're fed up. So how do you explain what is happening with Americans, wherever they live, anywhere around? After this rock'em sock'em U.S. presidential election that put Donald Trump into the office, they can't stop talking about it. Since the inauguration, anecdotal evidence tells us that it is nearly impossible to go anywhere or engage in any conversation without hearing the name Trump. Enthusiastic love and hate is on equal sides. People are as aggressively supportive as they are enthusiastically critical. In shuls, in cabs, on the subway, on supermarket checkout lines, and on just about every Main Street USA, at least one person is always ready to express a strong opinion about the current president. And the person next to him is only too eager to chime right in. It is a new and unique phenomenon that's taking over American psyche. There's no doubt about it. The best part about the phenomenon is that people are defying conventional wisdom, throwing apathy out the window and talking about politics. America is starting to care about politics. Many of the voices involved in the conversation may not have even voted in the last presidential election. But even that does not stop them from being activated and talking about politics. On the Jewish side, this phenomenon seems exponentially magnified. Jews seem to talk more about their expectations, pride, anger, and disappointments than non-Jews. That does not surprise me. It's what we do. This time, however, it has reached a heightened frenzy. And that's why I feel compelled to enter the conversation and inject a sense of perspective. People, Americans, lovers of Israel, active and non-active members of the Jewish community, know this. The United States is a resilient democracy. You must believe that no matter what or whom you cast your ballot for, no matter where you stand and no matter what your perspective is on this president, the foundations of the republic are not being shaken and will not be shaken. They may even be bolstered. The election of Donald J. Trump is a revolution in American political history. Not to recognize that simple fact is to turn a blind eye to the truth. And another simple fact is that this president's approach to Israel will be very different from the approach and attitude of his predecessor, Barack Obama. If that was not obvious until now, pay attention to the answer President Trump gave to Sean Hannity, Fox News TV host and one of the candidate Trump's biggest supporters and on-air backers. In response to a question on how he would go about repairing the relationship between the United States and Israel, Trump explained, already done. It's already done. It's repaired, he said. It got repaired as soon as I took the oath. It's repaired. We have a good relationship. Israel has been treated very badly. We have a good relationship with them. Unquote. In Trump's mind, as if it should be in all of our minds, the moment he was sworn into office, the relationship between the United States and Israel was transformed. And about moving the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, President Trump responded, I don't want to talk about it. It's too early. The important point here is that Trump sees the complexity involved in moving the embassy. He, as president, is not jumping to make the move. And the word circulating the corridors of Washington, as well as in various news outlets in Israel is that Israeli leadership is asking the newly installed American president to slow down the pace of the embassy move. This may upset some Trump supporters and be fodder for fire for Trump antagonists, but so be it. Let's not be fooled. We cannot make the mistake of confusing unconditional support for 100% agreement. But unlike Obama, Trump is not stealthily, sneakily going to hand over $221 million to the Palestinians the moment he thinks no one is watching. Obama's last move in office on Friday morning, moments before Donald J. Trump placed his hands on 2 Bibles and was sworn in as the 45th president of the United States, Obama approved giving the Palestinians $221 million. It was his final jab in a series of jabs at Israel and at the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. The phenomenon overtaking Americans is now to be applauded. For the first time in a long time, people are really excited about politics. Wherever they stand on the spectrum, wherever they are expressing fear and concern or excitement and appreciation, they are talking about politics, and that's a good thing. Coming up next, Points of View. Here's what some important voices have been talking about. I'm only going to discuss one column today. It's by Aviad Kleinberg, and it was published on January 25th, 2017 in Ynet News. It was in Hebrew in the original, in Yediot Achronot, which is their brick-and-mortar newspaper, which is still sold at newsstands and delivered to people's doors in Israel. And it's also sold at newsstands in the United States, with the United States, a U.S. edition inserted inside. And of course, it's in Hebrew on their website, www.ynet.co.il. And then it is also translated into English at www.ynetnews.com. Kleinberg is a weekly columnist for Yediot and is a full professor of medieval Jewish history at Tel Aviv University. He's the author of several books which have been translated into English, published by Harvard University Press. One is called Flesh Made Word, which is subtitled Saints, Stories, and the Western Imagination. And another is Prophets in Their Own Countries, Living Saints and the Making of Sainthood in the Later Middle Ages. This column is entitled, When Trump Falls, Israel Will Suffer Too. Kleinberg argues that there are real dangers for Israel to hook their wagon to Trump. He argues that the Trump era will likely be followed by a strong reaction of those he stepped on in the name of alternative facts and disregard. Israel will be part of the Trump legacy, a legacy of contempt towards human rights, reciprocity, a balanced global policy, a legacy the next generation will want to renounce. Here's how Kleinberg begins. There are many addictive drugs. Power is one of the most dangerous ones. When we get a large dose of it, it makes us lose track of time as well as our natural skepticism. When we win, we stop seeing the many reasons that led to victory: luck, a rival's weakness, the complexity of reality. We won because we are pure wisdom, or because God is with us, or because the regular rules of history have been suspended for our sake. Kleinberg is laying out the natural tendency to be blinded by a win or a loss, and to focus on issues that may not be grounded in truth. Kleinberg continues, defeat makes us pay attention, ask questions, want to rectify. Victory makes us feel that tomorrow will be a direct continuation of yesterday, that what we did was perfection, and the proof is that we won. So there is no need to prepare for the rain that will come following the sunny days. Time is on our side. No doubt Kleinberg is correct in writing that everything will not always be easy, and there will be difficult times ahead. That's only normal. He continues, I look at the celebration taking place in certain circles in Israel following Donald Trump's victory, and I remember the trickiness of history, the process of natural balance taking place, the rain that follows the sun. The feeling reflected from the celebrating circles is that the dams have been removed. All the things that required caution and restraint in the past have disappeared. There is one of us sitting in the White House, the embodiment of our wildest dreams. I mean, the dreams of extreme rightists in Israel. Kleinberg now issues a warning and presents a plan to make certain that Israel does not fall into this trap. He continues, "If we have restrained ourselves until now, it's because the boss in America, the devil Obama, or a bunch of weak presidents who preceded him, demanded a certain outward appearance for his own political reasons. It's true that the American administrations have accompanied a seemingly ceremonial demand with numerous winks and nudges, but that's over now. The moment of truth has arrived. We could come out of the moral closet together with the new disregarding president. Finally, all our problems are solved." Kleinberg now describes how Trump is a gambler, and a gambler is definitely never reliable. He continues, "And here's another possibility. Trump is a compulsive gambler. He gambled on the presidency, and he hit the jackpot. At the moment, he is living in the world where victory is the rule. He will do as he pleases, and reality will adapt itself. But experience shows that Trump has repeatedly gone bankrupt. The non-virtual reality has its own rules." Kleinberg writes that Israel is going to be painted with the failures of Trump, that the entire world sees the partnership, and that will be harmful to Israel itself. Kleinberg now argues the following. The current U.S. president creates a lot of resistance. For many people in the United States and in the world, he symbolizes the radical opposite of their entire world of values and interests. And I'm not just talking about the radical left in the United States. The Republican Party feels uneasy as well, and that unease will only grow. Israel is locating itself in the radical right-wing camp. It is the clearest supporter of the president and his mistakes. Now Kleinberg's conclusion. He suggests that the ramifications of the fall will be tremendous and that Israel should adjust accordingly. He says, assuming, not unfoundedly, that the Trump era will be followed by a strong reaction of all those he stepped on in the name of alternative facts and disregard, what then? Israel will be part of the Trump legacy, a legacy of contempt towards human rights, reciprocity, a balanced global policy, a legacy the next generation will want to renounce. When you place all your money on the gambler, you fall along with him. There is a tomorrow. Kleinberg presents a very good argument. The problem is, of course, that it's based on speculation. Trump just might succeed. And in the end, people will still hate him. They'll still hate the United States and still hate Israel. And he might fail, and people will again might still hate the United States and still hate Israel, as they already do. The potential for gains that can take place and the growth that will occur because of the close partnership are also very exciting. We just have to wait and see. Remember, Trump has only just begun a 4-year term. Coming up next, commentary through cartoons where pictures tell the story. I want to show you 2 cartoons today. Both are from my new favorite cartoonist, Ira Branco. And they are from his website called Liberty Alliance. It's also known as Legal Insurrection, or LI, sometimes also called Legally Incorrect. This first cartoon is entitled InfoWars, and it was published on January 25th, 2017. The cartoon has 2 cannons facing one another. One cannon represents the mainstream media. The flag reads CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and the New York Times. The cannon reads fake news. And under the cannon is a pile of cannonballs. The cannonballs read lie on each ball. Facing the cannon is Trump. Manning his cannon, Trump's cannon reads Twitter. Trump says, "This means war." The cartoon is making fun of fake news, and that Trump is responding by tweeting. This issue of fake news on the part of the media has been met with an equally huge challenge that the White House is making up facts also, called alternative facts, or alt-facts. Next up is another cartoon by Ira Branco. This is a theme that cartoonists have been using for years, and we have discussed this very genre many times. This particular version was published December 19, 2016, and it's entitled Coexistence Myth. Branco brings a twist on the theme. The symbols spell out the word coexist. The crescent moon of the flag of Turkey is the C. The peace sign is the O. The E is the symbol of the males and females. The X is the Star of David, etc., etc. The major twist here is that each of these people are lying on the sand facing forward, and an ISIS executioner is there dressed all in black, and his shirt reads Radical Islam. He's holding a bloody knife, having decapitated all of them. The blood is running underneath their bodies. This cartoon genre has taken a more ominous twist by Branco. In a moment, my own perspective and a few predictions. At least one company is very happy about President Trump's declaration to build a wall. Israeli Prime Minister posted a tweet that the wall works and that building a wall is a good idea. He tweeted that, not just that it works in Israel, but that it kept Israel safe. Magal Security Systems is the main company that built the smart wall in Israel, and they are lobbying to help build the wall in America. Magal's American counterpart is called Senstar. Senstar showed off their fiber patrol system in Alexandria, Virginia on January 31st at a conference on border security. Homeland Security was there, as well as other agencies dealing with national security. The fiber patrol system embeds fiber optic sensors along fences. The system is already in place in airport perimeters across America. The newly elected United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, spoke on Israeli radio. He wanted to make perfectly clear that it is clearly understood that the Holy Temple stood in Jerusalem and was a Jewish temple. It was on top of the mountain that today is called the Temple Mount. This is Guterres' quote exactly. Completely clear that the temple that the Romans destroyed in Jerusalem was a Jewish temple. Since that very moment, Palestinian leadership and media have exploded in condemnation of the United Nations Secretary General. They're claiming that Secretary General does not know history. The entire debate here is totally ridiculous. The Palestinians are trying to rewrite history and erase historical fact. Historical facts are not open to debate. Those who dare to make up history should be put in their place. Terrorists have begun hacking the police who monitor them. In a twist of convention, the hunted is now hunting the hunter. This is what happened in Australia. The Australian anti-terror police have made public that they have discovered a list of their own security forces and details about them on the computers of terrorists. In the past, terrorists and hackers, especially hacktivists are hacker protesters activists, they've made public the names and details of police and government leaders. The interesting twist here is that ISIS is not known for hacking, though it's true that despite their highly advanced use of media and encryption in communication, media and encryption is fairly easy. Just follow the directions, post, and you're safe. Just follow the protocols. Hacking is a lot more complex. It requires skills and requires a lot of patience. We know that the terrorists in Australia want to hack and that they're trying to hack, but we don't know how successful they were in actually gaining access and information. Shamoon 2 has hit Saudi Arabia and its oil industry. Shamoon 2 is a variant on the original Shamoon virus from 2012. The original virus shut down 35,000 Saudi computers within the Saudi oil industry, including Aramco, which is the national oil company for Saudi Arabia. The virus literally brought the Saudi oil production to a halt. Speculation was that the virus was created and run out of Iran. That speculation makes sense. And now again, from November 2016 through December and now into 2017, an almost identical virus has been found in Saudi oil computers. The virus strikes the host computer and quickly spreads throughout its entire network. Shamoon then relays all the information and all documents back to the attacker and then destroys the host's own network. Finally, the virus overwrites the master boot record of the infected computers. Once the overwrite is completed, the infected computer cannot be turned on. The entire system is defunct and all the files are no longer there. This is a very powerful and very destructive virus. Antivirus companies have been hired by the Saudis across the world in order to work to isolate and counter and protect against this virus. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one picante piece of information. We've been talking a lot about the wall. When we say the wall, we think about Trump and his wall. the wall between Mexico and the United States. But in Judaism, when we say the wall, we think of a different kind of wall. The wall is the Western Wall. It's the outer retaining wall of the temple built by Herod in Jerusalem. It's the expanded version of the Second Temple. The building was huge, really huge, really huge, with average stones weighing 70 tons, the smallest stones weighing 8 tons, large stones weighing 200 tons, and the largest double course stone weighing 400 tons. It measured a half a mile by a quarter mile, and it stood 11 stories high. There was a small section of the outer supporting wall, the Western Wall, which was exposed for centuries. It still survives, and hence that section is called the Western Wall today. Many mistakenly call it the Wailing Wall. That is wrong, and the expression is insulting and intentionally degrading. Christians often use the term. The term was given to describe what people thought happened at the wall, that Jews went there and cried about their terrible condition. It was a place where Jews wailed, in Yiddish, they shried, they wept, about the past and the present. Not true. It is called the Kotel in Hebrew. There are many words for wall in Hebrew. This is just one of them. This place, the wall, was the closest one could get to the Holy of Holies, the Sanctum Sanctorum. That was on the top of the mountain itself. It was a place where Solomon built the temple, and the second temple was built there too. It was the place where Abraham bound Isaac, which is known as the Akedah in the book of Genesis, the great act that Kierkegaard called fear and trembling, where monotheism had its birth. The temple is a powerful place. The Jewish people then and now know that God lives everywhere, not in a single place. But the temple was where the center of ritual was headquartered. Without the temple, there would be nearly no Jewish ritual. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.